the information that I'm giving you, I'm trying to validate in a broader context than most information comes in. It's usually just laboratory, isolated, abstract information about how a cell works, or this does this to rats, or it's very ungrounded. And so I'm attempting to validate everything that I'm saying through examples of where we find these things in nature, or how we have come across them in nature as an evolving creature. And the next part that I want to tell you about is to flesh out this concept that every food contains poisons and every food contains nutrients. And the simple way of understanding that is that plants don't want to be eaten. Plants produce leaves to photosynthesize for them. They don't produce leaves for us to eat, nor flowers, nor roots, nor rhizomes, nor bark, nor all the other parts of the plants that we eat. They are actually quite well protected. The plant protects itself. And it does so in many different ways. It can make leaves spiky, they can grow in inaccessible places. The main thing that it does is it covers them in very powerful chemistry. And it is chemistry that is deliberately created by the plant to be problematic, so that it encourages you to go somewhere else and eat something else. It doesn't want a particular beetle to start eating its leaves, and so it produces things in the leaves that the beetles don't like. And the same with, it doesn't want apes eating its leaves or its roots or anything else, and so it protects itself. Therefore, every plant has protective mechanisms on it. If we, as an evolving creature, have had to continue eating this plant, then we have had to have created antigens to those poisons, so that we can, in eating that plant, receive those poisons and turn them off in the bowel, hopefully, neutralise them, so that they don't then poison us. But that process of creating an antigen to a new compound that you're finding in a plant or in a food source can take hundreds of thousands of years to develop, because it requires a new gene to be created, and then to express that gene into a cell, and that cell to use that gene to produce a protein or an enzyme that will neutralise that material. So it's a very, very lengthy process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's about hundreds of thousands of years. And then when we've completed that, we can start eating that plant again en masse. And so then the plant has to come up with another defensive mechanism that we then have to neutralise. Each of these processes takes huge spans of time. So over the course of evolution, you've got this huge arms race going on, where they produce a poison, we produce an antigen. They produce a poison, we produce an antigen. And it happens throughout the plant kingdom, on every aspect of the plant, with mostly the sole exception of fruit, because fruit is designed to be eaten. Our lineage co-evolved eating fruit, and the plant's taking advantage of us eating fruit by us dispersing its seeds. There's been massive co-evolutions that have gone on between us in this hugely symbiotic space. So aside from fruit, that's going on all the time. And that works. We have, a rabbit has all the antigens it needs to eat all of the plants that it's likely to find in your average rabbit fodder. But if you suddenly put that rabbit in a completely different place and get it to eat completely different things, it will take a very, very long time before it has the ability to generate all the antigens necessary to turn off all these new poisons in this completely different food source that it's found. And this is where we are. We, in the past 10,000 years, probably more like 1,000 years, have started eating completely different foods. We are arboreal primates, tropical tree dwellers for 120 million years. And then suddenly, in the blink of an eye, in terms of evolutionary timescales, we're eating completely different things. And this is where the major part of our diet falls over. And the second biggest killer of lactobacteria is coffee. And I only really cite that not to piss off all the coffee drinkers in the room, but because it's a very good example of this phenomenon. It's a much bigger phenomenon. And that is that coffee seeds are very, very poisonous. They're some of the most protected seeds on the planet. There's over 2,000 different pathogenic compounds on coffee seeds, of which lectins are one. It was mentioned yesterday. read up, and they are one of a very good example of exactly the kind of things that I'm talking about. But there's many different kinds of them, because plants have had millions of years to come up with these things. And coffee has covered itself in poisons that it has targeted into the endocrine system. So it's created a poison that deliberately messes with the metabolic system of mammals, because it doesn't want mammals eating its seeds. It's deliberately come up with a reason to go elsewhere and eat a mango. I don't want you eating my babies. And the system works. And we haven't been eating coffee seeds for long enough to have generated an antigen for it. And we know that because it comes straight into the system. Caffeine and its 7 different analogues that are in coffee come rushing straight into the system. They come out of the digestive system straight into the bloodstream. And your body goes into crisis management in order to deal with it. It's highly poisonous material. And the way that your body manages poisons at that level is it cranks up the whole endocrine system. It speeds up the blood pressure, increases the blood pressure, speeds up the heart rate, with the sole purpose of getting the blood through the liver as fast as possible so that the liver can clean out the blood of this stuff. And then the blood can start to calm down. But then the liver goes into convulsions to get rid of this stuff, because it's such a toxic material it irritates the liver. So the liver goes into convulsions and sends it into the bowel, and then the bowel goes into convulsions to get rid of it, and it comes out. But the experiential end of that, the front end of that, the reason why we drink coffee, is because when you speed up the endocrine system like that, you get a lift, you get a wake up, because your whole system is made to be alive in order to keep you alive. You get a lift out of it, and that's the hit you get out of coffee. And then you get liver contractions going on, and that's the holistic use of coffee. That's things like coffee enemas and liver flushes and that kind of material. It purges the liver. In other words, it squeezes the liver so hard it happens to knock out a bit of the crap that's congesting the liver as well. So the liver is left more free-flowing after that. And then it goes down the bile duct into the intestines, and the intestines go, "Ugh, I don't want it either." And that's the deconstipating effects of coffee, which is fantastic. We've solved 3 problems by drinking 1 drink. There's not many things you can say that about. We've woken ourselves up, we've decongested the liver, and we've deconstipated the bowel. And no one is therefore asking, what are we doing in our lives that makes us so sluggish that we have to use a really heavyweight plant chemical to wake us up several times a day? And why is it, what are we doing that is so congestive to our livers that we need to sweep it clean with the plant poison? And then what are we doing that is so constipating to the bowel that we need to use this acrid chemistry to open the bowel? We don't need to ask any of those questions because we've got the symptom management in a cup. But it's an interesting set of questions. What is it that we're doing? And the thing that I would cite most strongly as what we're doing is using the same things as coffee is an example of, and that is grains. Grains are cited as, hailed as being one of the great wonderful discoveries of the human race that have allowed us to live in all kinds of stupid places like this where nothing grows for months of the year and you can store grains to survive that process. Great, it's a staple, and that's true. In terms of civilization spreading out across the world and empire building and all the rest of it, grains have really worked for us. But biologically they are a nightmare because they are a grass seed. That's what grains are. Phytologically they're classified as grass seeds. And we are arboreal primates. We have no business eating grass seeds. We have no way of defending ourselves against the deliberate problematic materials that coat grass seeds. And this gives us problems because we don't have the antigens to their poisons.